Cutter Boley, top 100 2025 quarterback, could be a 2024 quarterback at some point in the near future out of Lexington Christian Academy in Kentucky. So I saw Boley over the weekend in Baltimore. He was at a 7-on-7 tournament playing with Sound Mind, Sound Body as a part of the OT7 North event. Boley kind of balked on giving a definitive answer in terms of him choosing to, stay in 2025 or go ahead and enroll in 2024. So right now he's still undecided on that, but it looks like he is trending towards reclassifying to 2024. Boley has enough requirements in terms of class credits. He also has enough age. I believe he's already going to be 18, so he should be a 2024 anyway. So it is a strong possibility that he ends up in 2024. Of course, Michigan already has a quarterback committed in 2024 in top 100 prospect Jadyn Davis, who is one of the leaders of the 2024 recruiting class. So going after Boley may not be the best idea if you want to keep Jadyn Davis in the fold, especially considering that Michigan did the all your eggs in one basket approach with him. At the same time, Boley is a tremendous talent, a 5-star level talent. It would be extremely tough to pass up on Cutter Boley. So Zach, I guess, I present to you, what should Michigan do with Cutter Boley? And before you answer, it is important to note that Michigan quarterbacks coach Kirk Campbell did visit Boley last week at his high school and is set to return to Boley's high school in 2 weeks. So it's not like Campbell has told him to kick rocks, and it's not like Boley has made a decision on reclassifying just yet.
Yeah. So there's really two ways they can go about it. They could say, sorry, Cutter, we have Jadyn Davis. Good luck with your college career and have fun with your OVs. Or they could say, look, we're going to keep recruiting you. We think you're a top priority. You've always been a top priority for the 2025 class. If you stay in the 2025 class, we're going to keep recruiting you the way you deserve because of your talent. Look, it's so tough, man. You have your top 100 quarterback. You have a guy who is already recruiting, as you mentioned, for Michigan. You have a guy who on social media and in interviews has bled maize and blue. But, Cutter Boley, we've talked about this on our board forward. If he was a 2024, he reclassifies, he has an argument to be the best in his class. High velocity, great frame. I know you watched him at OT7, and he has that shine of, making plays with his feet out of the pocket. I think we both talked to him and, got a little bit of, working relationship. I think we both have high opinions on him for his character on and off the field. I guess it's just, what do you do? I guess at that point, I think the more likely situation is that I think there needs to be a set decision from Cutter Boley to say, I'm going to take an official visit and then have you choose the school. You got to pick the school first before the class. So if it's a guaranteed that Cutter Boley is coming to Michigan, right? He would take Sophie and it's guaranteed that he picks him, then you can work something out. But if the RPM machine, the on-3 recruiting prediction machine is right, and Kentucky's leading, in which they are with 2 predictions, I think you just cut your losses and say, look, you already have your quarterback.
So I think there needs to be kind of a separation of facts and opinion when it comes to the Cutter Boley recruitment. Here are the facts. Like I said, Kirk Campbell visited him at his high school last week. He's set to visit him again in 2 weeks. I think Kirk Campbell is doing his due diligence all around. A direct quote from Cutter Boley, and I'm going to paraphrase it because I don't have it directly in front of me. is Kirk Campbell told me that they like me as a quarterback, whether that's 24 or 25. We are going to have more discussions. Nothing's concrete, right? So I think right now Campbell is leaving the door open until he makes that visit in a couple of weeks and has more clarity on a few things. One, where does Michigan stand? Because if you're not confident and you think Cutter Boley is going to Kentucky, then there's no point in continuing to recruit him.
No.
Two, if Cutter Boley is kind of still teetering on classes, on reclassifying, whether it's 24 or 25, if he still doesn't know, which when I talked to him on Saturday, he still didn't know, then I think you continue to obviously do your due diligence and kind of wait and see. I think where things become really murky is the fact that Boley said he does want to pick a school before he picks whether he's going to reclassify or not. He also wants to make a decision before the end of summer. So he's making official visits. He already has one set to Kentucky. He is about to set one to Penn State, and he would like to set one to Michigan. Now, Campbell hasn't green-lighted the official visit to Michigan because they're in parts, obviously. You have Jadyn Davis. You don't want to, mess anything up there, especially with how hard you work and all the stipulations that came with it. To land him, I think, you definitely don't want to lose Jadyn Davis because you're continuing to recruit Cutter Boley and you end up with nothing because Cutter Boley picks Kentucky, right? So, again, the big thing here is, will Michigan let him make an official visit? Now, an official visit still doesn't guarantee that Boley is going to reclassify. He can make official visits. He's free to do so because he has enough credits or whatever, and he can skirt around the NCAA rules. So just because Boley makes an OV doesn't mean he's guaranteed to reclass, even though all signs point that way. So if Michigan does let him OV, it's tough because it's still, even though it's not a guarantee that he reclasses, it still gives the impression that you're recruiting him as a 24, and again, could upset the Jadyn Davis camp. So again, it's a really tough call for Kirk Campbell, but I think he's handling it the right way. He hasn't made any commitment one way or the other. He knows that it's very likely that Boley will reclassify. He's seeing him for the second time in 3 weeks. So I'll be interested to see how Campbell lets it play out. But I think it's pretty clear that, Davis has felt like he's the only guy in 2024. It would be kind of weird to not make him the only guy in 2024, especially when you went through as many, kind of hurdles during his recruiting process, making him the only quarterback on the board, not talking to any other 2024s. Campbell did have some options where he kind of looked at a few guys, but never seriously pursued any other quarterbacks not named Jadyn Davis. So, I think Jadyn Davis kind of wanted it that way as well, or at the very least liked being courted in that manner. So I think if you do recruit Cutter Boley, if you do host him on an OV, then that would probably cause a little bit of friction. So overall, I think, again, Campbell's handling it the right way. He's going back to see Boley. He's gathering more information. He's also gathering more information from the Jadyn Davis side as well. And if Jadyn Davis says, hey, I don't want another 2024, then I guess you have to not recruit Cutter Boley. Now, those are kind of the facts of the situation, right? You can't afford to lose Jadyn Davis after back-to-back cycles of not having a quarterback, even if it means passing on a guy like Cutter Boley, who is a top target. Now, people have mentioned, if in like the most unlikely scenario, if Jadyn Davis did leave, would recruiting momentum drop off because you get Cutter Boley? And I think the answer is no. I mean, you saw that picture. He's wearing the Detroit 7-on-7 jersey. That's because he plays with guys like Jacob Oden, with Jeremiah Beasley, with Boo Carter, with Mason Curtis. So it's not like Boley is unfamiliar with the rest of the class or the targets or anything. So, but that's the thing is, the facts aren't I'm trying to present you take Cutter Boley and you kick Jadyn Davis out of the class, whatever your perceptions are. That's definitely not what I'm saying. Um, but I do think that that's kind of the reality of the situation is you actually have to kick Boley to the curve if Davis tells you no and he's intent on reclassifying. But I think everything's kind of moot right now. We just have to wait and see how Campbell's visit goes, what Boley decides, whether they decide to bring him in for an OV. So it's kind of just wait and see. All these discussions are more so scenarios. Now, opinion should be what's better, Jadyn Davis and no Cutter Boley, or Jadyn Davis and Cutter Boley, like you like to say, Zach. ¿Por qué no los dos? Why not both? If you're Jadyn Davis and you really think you're that guy, you should have no real problem with Cutter Boley joining the class, right? Cutter Boley doesn't have a problem with Jadyn Davis. Cutter Boley went on record saying that he's not afraid to compete with Jadyn Davis. I really liked his quotes. I would suggest to go read them over on the Wolverine about potentially having to compete with Jadyn Davis. So, you have all these guys in 2025, and we talked about it off camera. You have these guys like Cutter Boley, Ryan Montgomery, Bryce Underwood, who have all kind of gone on record and said, I don't care who I have to compete against. And I think, Zach, you made the point that that's something that Kirk Campbell really values is the competitive. Now, that's not competitiveness. Now, that's not saying Jadyn Davis doesn't have the same type of competitiveness or isn't, he just may not be as vocal about sharing the same sentiment. But if Cutter Boley wants to jump in, I don't think you should have a problem with that. You should just let Campbell recruit him. I mean, there's a chance that Michigan doesn't win him anyway, right? Michigan's probably playing from behind when it comes to Kentucky. So why not just let Campbell continue to recruit Boley and see what happens? So I don't know. That's kind of my take on it is if you are that 5-star level prospect, you should have no concern with Cutter Boley. I mean, I guess, Zach, you can have the last word on this segment.
I mean, I keep thinking about this. Like, we have had 48 hours of just Jadyn Davis and Cutter Boley talks. So it's like really the best case scenario. Maybe now that you have unlimited official visits, I don't really know how that works though. If 2 separate years, he's allowed to take unlimited officials. You let him go in June. Let him convince that he can still be in the 25 class. He stays in 25, then he comes back for another. I feel like that would be the best course of action. In terms of competitiveness, like you said, I think the most cutthroat competitors on the football field. The more talent that's around you, I think that just increases your levels of competitiveness. I think it's also unfair that people are just assuming that Jadyn Davis would not want Cutter Boley class. Like, wouldn't you want someone to help you with your competitive drive? Like, I think that's just a quarterback emotional trait, for a positive. But I think it would just be great for just these two to get the most out of each other on practice and film in the weight room. Like, you want motivation. I think Cutter would find that in Cutter. So, I mean, it would be beneficial to both, but we'll just see.
Yeah, I mean, and last thing on that, look, I think Michigan has to take 2 quarterbacks at some point. If they don't go after Boley, it is what it is. But you're probably going to have to take 2 quarterbacks in 2025. I mean, you've landed nothing but project takes for back-to-back cycles. So it would be nice to have 2 quarterbacks. So again, that's not a knock on Jadyn Davis, like me saying Michigan should take 2 quarterbacks. I've covered a 2 quarterback class in the past before I was on the Michigan beat. Texas had one, so it's not like I'm saying, it's because I am not super high on Jadyn Davis, Michigan should take another quarterback. That's not it. It's that there isn't real depth there because of the lack of quarterback recruiting the last 2 cycles. So I think if you don't take another one with Jadyn Davis, which looks unlikely right now unless the Boley situation works out, then I think you take 2 in 2025. And my overall point being, it's great to hear Bryce Underwood, Ryan Montgomery, Cutter Boley if he stays in 25, all saying that they don't care, because it would be nice for Michigan to land Bryce Underwood and an upside guy, or Boley and an upside guy, or Ryan Montgomery and another high floor guy. However you want to kind of pair it, I think it's great that the 25 quarterbacks don't care about the all your eggs in one basket approach, because it's a dumb approach. And I think it's cool that they're all open to, Michigan recruiting other quarterbacks. So that's kind of it. It's just a wait and see situation. And I think we'll know a lot more about how everything's going to play out after Campbell makes his visit in a couple of weeks.